Have you ever wondered what the best map is to drop a high elim or damaged game? Maybe you want to get the best loot, or you're looking to get the best ranked gains for your time. Well, today we're going to be ranking every map in Apex Legends for both pub and ranked play. We begin with the pub's map ranking, which is more so centered around getting high elimination and damaged games. Generally, the maps that are good for this type of fast-paced pub play are different from the ones that are great for ranked. Taking the bottom spot in C tier is going to be Stormpoint. Stormpoint has a ton of playable space, but this is also the biggest problem for pub Apex Legends. Because this map is so large and enemies can get spread out, pub games feel like an absolute snooze fest. I will mention that the only thing saving this map from being lower in pubs is that the gravity cannons do greatly help speed up rotations, and Season 17's evac tower introduction has made the map feel a little bit more approachable. Also, there are times when the dropship will start over a POI like Mill and Barometer, and in this case, it kind of saves the match as you will get some extended action, but for general pub play, Stormpoint is my least favorite due to the slower nature of it. On the lower end of my ranking is going to be a slightly controversial pick, but World's Edge just squeaks into B tier for me. World's Edge and pubs just do not feel that good these days. The map has had just a lot of iterations to the point where it has been overdone. There was the hot drop of Capital City and then Fragment East with streamer building, and now we kind of have lost that identity that the map used to have. There's nothing wrong with this map, and it's a good overall map, but it does feel slightly slower when you do compare it to a few of the other maps when it does come to pubs. One of those maps that I think is a little underrated for the pure pub scene is going to be Kings Canyon, the OG. Arguably, KC has had some of the roughest times, but unlike World's Edge, I think they have found a pretty decent balance between that old school Apex feel, but it also has some modern twists. The changes that were implemented in Season 14 greatly help slow down things to an extent where in pubs, it's not just everyone dropping in one spot. Skulltown. Containment still gets the hot drop nod, but unlike World's Edge or Stormpoint, the size of the map allows for a more healthy mid-game, and you generally don't have to go too far to get more fights, which is awesome for pubbing. There's no denying that Broken Moon upon release was a massive letdown, but the more recent Season 21 changes have revitalized the center of the map and a lot of the surrounding areas to where the map does feel a ton better to play on. Previously, it was really just drop a terraformer, or your game was going to be a completely dead game with minimal action. The center map changes have really made it so you can drop in a number of spots and having some fighting while also not having to go too far for additional fights, since there are zip rails and other map movement items. It's weird that Broken Moon took 6 full seasons to get some tweaks, where every other map had adjustments just after 2 seasons, but regardless, it's not too bad anymore. There may be a little bit of recency bias, but I truly think E-District is a superb map worthy of being in high A tier for those who are looking to push and play more freely in pubs. I will say, when the revival mode is in Apex, pubs on this map feels a little bit better, but for the most part, E-District is an extremely well thought out map that once you learn, the loot isn't too bad, rotation paths are quick, and honestly, the fights are awesome because of the amount of playable space that you do have. You have a lot of options to take fights, and since there are so many buildings, survivability is also really good, meaning you can live longer if you are playing a little bit more intelligently. Respawn did state that they took everything that they learned from the past Apex maps and put it into this map, and I think it does really show. The extra development time of 9 months as well is also pretty evident. The ultimate pub map in Apex Legends, but maybe not the best map for pure performance or gameplay, is going to be Olympus. Olympus does get my nod as the map that was literally designed for faster games. The map is small, the POIs are fairly dense in terms of their layout, meaning loot is plentiful, and you don't really have to run around that much to get from POI to POI. On-map rotation is also decent, with lots of balloons, and evac towers have helped this Season 7 map speed up the pace of play even more. There really is not a dedicated hot drop beyond maybe a states or energy depot, which I do think means players don't mind spreading out a little bit, and because of this, the games feel a little bit healthier, and you won't really get those dud games unless you are flying very far, which is honestly the case for any map. I will mention that games can get kind of chaotic, but I think that is okay for pubs. You're supposed to be taking a lot more fights and getting better and getting more eliminations. In ranked Apex, we are looking to achieve consistency in our gains. This means climbing the overall ranks. One of the biggest factors for a good ranked map is the overall playable space that is available and your ability to actually play the game. This means how many rotation options do you have, and having enough playable space on the map so you have the capability to take smarter fights that do not get punished due to map design or lack thereof. My favorite pub map gets the bottom spot in C, and it is Olympus. Olympus is a great map that forces players to be aggressive, but there's no denying the smaller size massively hurts all ranked players. The size specifically means that in addition to players just being able to hear fights that are happening, they can easily third party all game long, which increases your match's randomness, and this is not what you want for ranked Apex. Arguably an even bigger problem is the actual playable space. There's been good changes over the years, but the map is very open when you do compare it to many of the other ranked maps, and this means you can't really rotate efficiently, and you're going to be penalized when you do take fights and do not finish them fast enough. Of course, if you like chaos and faster games, then this is perfect for you. Just this is not going to provide a consistent ranked experience. Slightly getting the bump over Olympus is going to be the OG Kings Canyon. KC has had a small resurgence in ranked viability, but it still has many of the same problems as Olympus. The bump in tier ranking mostly comes from the way the map is laid out, as you can mostly take more fights since it is not as open as it used to be. The only exception is going to be the entire hillside near containment. This area you gotta avoid like the plague. The pathing you have on this map due to the canyon feel does let you have some rotation options, but the fact that this map was designed before evac towers or even Valkyrie clearly means it does have some issues with teams just diving on you. I would love to see a real revamp of this map, kind of like what they did to Broken Moon, while also bringing back a nice little nostalgic flair looking at you, Bridges, Cascades, and Thunderdome. Speaking of the moon, Broken Moon gets the upper B placement, making it a pretty great ranked map right now. The zip rails can make this larger map feel small at times, but for the most part, there's a lot of good things going for Broken Moon. It has good drop spot options, as POIs are fairly spread out, and there's a lot of them. Loot is also not too bad at the majority of the POIs, meaning no matter where you land, close or far, you should have a fighting chance off the drop. I can't push Broken Moon above the upper tiers because I do think there are some big flaws when it comes to the overall rotation options. There's a ton of choke points that force enemies to get grouped up, so if you aren't actively rotating around these areas or quickly rotating, you're more than likely gonna have some problems if you want to cross the majority of the center of the map. All in all, Broken Moon has really turned it around over the past couple seasons, and I'm happy it isn't at least a map where I don't even want to play on the day that it is in the ranked rotation. There's only one map in A tier of amazing when it comes to ranked, and it is World's Edge. While I do think this map is the most overdone map, as it's by far the one that has been in the rotation the longest, the slow changes over the seasons have made more drop spots than the previous versions. More drop options means more ways to play with better loot, and this should lead you to having more control over your ranked results. Not a ton to say about World's Edge, kind of that map that has been always fairly reliable when it comes to ranked or competitive Apex. I do think we will see this map start to get put on the back burner with Season 22's newest introduction. With that, let's discuss the maps that are in S tier, and it is the aforementioned E District with our first entry into this tier. Arguably, it might be the best ranked map, but we do need to see a little bit more time on it before we can really make that call. Much like I stated in the pubs portion, this map is fairly large. Actually, it's quite large, which allows you to have a ton of locations to call that drop spot, and there is even some non-named POI spots that work quite well. E District's overall on-map rotation and the variation in height means you have a lot of ways to take control of your game, which is awesome for ranked Apex when you absolutely need to be flexible. There's easily no map that beats E District when it comes to pure playability, and while it has some issues, it's an excellent entry into Apex Legends for those looking to be a little bit more competitive. On an equal footing as E District for my ranking is going to be Stormpoint. SP is arguably one of the most divisive maps in the game, and while I think it plays pretty poorly in pubs, it's an excellent ranked map that can give you a really varied experience depending on your playstyle. You can land north and rotate downhill all game long and get better placement, or you can land south and get a little bit more fights in if you are feeling a little bit more confident in your skills. Like E District, Stormpoint is on the larger size, and you will have the option to fly a little bit further away to assure that you survive your early game if that is your style. There are some overall rotation issues with the mountains, but I think evac towers have mostly made this not as big of a deal as it used to be. Stormpoint has been a very consistent ranked and comp map for a while now, and I think its overall playability is pretty awesome. Drop a like, and happy gaming, legends.